You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? It's producer Kyle. I'm very hungry after Dan made me think about Tony Packo's last show. Please send hot dogs. If not hot dogs, chicken wings or pizzas of any kind will do. The address is 650 Ansonia Street, Oregon, Ohio, 43616, Suite 13B. The man will knock and I will hear it and I will go get whatever food you choose to send me. Please send food. I suppose we should talk about comics, but I really just want to talk about food. 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 Don't name what pancakes.
Goodness.
I got pizza coming tonight.
Oh. Hello, everybody.
I think I might have a grilled cheese.
I had grilled cheese last night.
No way.
So my grilled cheese are a little different. I go with mozzarella instead of my mom and my nephew. They do standard grill cheddar, but I go with mozzarella and I put ham on there too.
Then that's a ham and mozzarella sandwich. It's not a grilled cheese.
Yeah, because I'm an adult and I can make decisions.
Right. I mean, a ham and mozzarella sandwich is a whole sandwich level above a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, there's a reason you give it a proper name, Dan, because it's real food. A grilled cheese sandwich is government surplus bread, Kraft American singles, and whatever spread you can find on it that will fry.
You have to understand, my mother loves grilled cheese sandwiches, and I'm not a fan because I don't particularly like cheese. So I have to go through this process of bringing her up into something more elevated.
Right.
Yet I have to still call it grilled cheese.
No, it's not grilled cheese. The way I elevate my grilled cheese is I add barbecue rub on the bread, so it gives it a little bit of flavor.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I use sourdough.
Well, if you can afford sourdough.
Whatever my wife makes me.
Jay wins because he doesn't actually have to cook it. We both lose by having to cook it ourselves. Okay.
I enjoy cooking.
So do I, but like if you can watch TV and a grilled cheese sandwich shows up, you win.
Nah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, everybody else in my house is kind of a lazy cook, so.
That's fair. John's with Jay. That's fair.
So Jenna's making John sandwiches too? How does that work?
I've met Jenna. She would, if we all showed up at her house, she'd just start making sandwiches.
Yeah, I can see that. Totally.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome into In Stores this week, where we talk about books that are in stores this week. This week, there are comic books in stores, which didn't seem like a thing yesterday when I looked at this list. So, you know. We should get started. Sorry.
I'll go.
I'm still thinking about my snack and how hungry I am.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I got a fun little thing that only I would see in this book.
Okay, are we starting with Scar?
Yeah.
Because right now we have an open sign. Scar.
There we go.
It's got Scar in it.
So you know the things in books when it says like dynamite and it tells you the CEO and who does what for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So Mariano Niciez's is research and development, right?
Yeah.
Development is missing a T. Don't ask me how I saw it.
Wait, is it development?
Yeah. Don't
Should
ask
we
me
call
how.
Nick right now and be like, every copy of Scar has a spelling error?
You might want to check. I'm just saying. I don't know how I saw it, but I was like, wait a second, that doesn't look right.
Do you really want to add to Nick's stress?
Oh, I do. I really do. Just for the comedy of it. Hey, what does the job development do? I know what development is, but what is development?
Oh,
It's like a drill sergeant. He develops men.
anyway, getting into the book now. Now that I've done that, I like this one. I liked it, but I wish they would have gone a little farther back in this issue. Like the first few panels could have been a young Scar and Mufasa, and then get into the story, because this issue felt a little more fatty than meat. Like the art's good, and it was still an enjoyable read, but the team here has this opportunity to show us something that we haven't seen before, and they're for the most part they're doing it, but they could do we're showing you right before he meets the hyenas, and then do an issue where the whole issue is him and Mufasa's kids. I just think that'd be a good idea. I hope they continue to utilize the fact that they have this before the events of the movie story going on. I just wanted something a little more.
I keep forgetting that it's a prequel. I keep expecting Anakin Skywalker to show up. It just, and you're right. They do have it set up when he talks about visiting the elephant graveyard when he was a child or cub. Yeah, cub. There isn't a lot in this issue. It almost feels like, we need X number of issues to make our money back on this license. So stretch this one. So, which is kind of weird. That's normally a third issue. But there is some good stuff. It does. I will say that Chuck Brown, when the dialogue for Scar, I can hear Jeremy Irons. That is fantastic. That I love. But yeah, it does feel this issue does feel a little light compared to the last one. They could have taken a moment, shown us him in the elephant graveyard as a cub. I agree with you on that. But
Issue 2 is too early in a series to be wasting my time for 15 pages. And that's what happened here. It was 15 pages of basically retreading what we felt from the first issue. And then the thing happens, right? With the elephant graveyard and all of the things that follow that, right? Like, okay, now we're getting to the Scar we kind of know and either love or despise. But we spent 15 pages goofing around, hunting and zebras and talking about horsefly. Oh, in issue 3, if you have to have a filler issue to get to 5 issues, I understand it. I don't love it, but I understand it. Issue 2 is too early to do that. You still need to be setting up. They could have started where this book ended and gone from there, which is wildly disappointing. That said, like Dan, I hear Jeremy Irons' voice. I hear the voice of the birds from like I hear this in animation, which I love. So as much as this book was wildly disappointing and frustrating to me, it still hit me right in the where I want it to hit me. So I want to keep reading. I'm still excited to keep reading, and maybe that's the thing it has going for it, is that it can piss you off without turning you off, which is nice. So definitely a pickup, definitely a good series so far. All right. Next up, Lord of the Jungle. We just went from Lord of the Savannah to Lord of the Jungle.
all right, this is probably my favorite book of the week, which is really weird because I wasn't expecting it to be. And I don't know if that's a sign of how good this book is and how good Dan Jurgens is as a writer, or the weakness of some other books, but this has been a consistently strong Tarzan story, and Tarzan is a type of story, and I've seen some people do good Tarzan stories, and I've seen people do good stories that just happen to have Tarzan in them. This is a good Tarzan story. I like where it's been going. I like the story it's telling. I think we got one issue left, at least of the story, but it's always struck me as weird that basically we focused on an older Tarzan and then a lot of it on a younger Tarzan, which is kind of, to me, an odd choice. But other than that, I think this is a great series. I really wonder what they're going to do with it next after this arc. If they're going to do more Tarzan, or will just somebody else come in? But I really like what they're doing. I'd love to see Dan Jurgens maybe focus on Tarzan in his prime on some stories.
I'm ready for this book to be over, if I'm being honest. It's good, but I feel like we've been reading this book for 2 years. And we're only 5 issues in. Like, it just feels like it's taking forever. And I could tell you why. I went and looked. This book started in November of last year. And it came out November, December, January. Then there was a month off in March. And then there was a month off in April. So it was coming out regular, and that was great. And I was really digging it. And then it started slowing down, and I've lost interest. If this book had come out from, 6 straight months, I think this would have really been really high on my list. But I've moved on to other things that, especially from Dynamite, that are coming out that I'm more interested in these days. Gargoyles, Darkwing Duck, Scar, ironically, all cartoonier properties. But the heat and the momentum this had seems to have been slowed by the release schedule for me. And so when we got this book in the list, I'm like, really? That's still coming out? It's still happening? And I read it and I enjoyed the story, but now it's just one of those things that for me feels like an obligation because I'm so far in. I need to finish it, and not something that I look forward to reading. That said, the story was great. Dan Jurgens is crushing it. I just wish that this book would have been done 3 months ago.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I can't get enough of this series. I want this to go volumes. I don't know what Dynamite's plan is for this, but I've read a few Tarzan stories when I was a kid, and there's something about this one that just gives me like an adventurous feeling when I read it. I can't wait to get the trade for this. I'm going to make sure as soon as it's released, I'm on it and I'm reading this thing over again. If you're a Tarzan fan, a Dynamite fan, or a Dan Jurgens fan, get this book on your pull because it's worth it.
Yeah, and we should also mention Benito Gallego, who's doing the art on this. He has such a Kubert style to him. It's like it really does feel like you're reading an old Joe Kubert drawn book, and I think that just adds so much to this.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, there's nothing about it that I don't like other than the fact that all of a sudden it got slow. Like, and Jay said it, like, if this was a book that somebody handed me the trade, I think I'd probably read it in an hour.
Well, he's channeling the ghost of Joe Kubert when he's drawing, and sometimes the connection to the afterlife is a little spotty, so it slows him down.
It's late, like Joe Kubert often was.
Yeah.
Not to speak ill of the dead, but the man and the deadline were not friends. All right, Kong, the Great War. Also, can I just tell you, I thought this was Kong set in World War I.
Yeah.
When I first read the title. Little bummed out that that's not what it is, but also not bummed out at all.
Wait, I still thought it was. Because I thought those were Nazis on the beach.
I didn't read that as Nazis. Which is an interesting thing. Like, the connection to World War I or World War II never really connected to me on this book, even though I know that's kind of what the intention was from reading the solicitation.
Yeah.
But that being said, it didn't need to.
Right.
Insert generic bad guy army here. Right. Is your enemy the Russians? Fits. Is your enemy the Prussians from World War I? Fits. The Confederacy? Yeah, that still works. Like, pick a bad guy army and
bad guy here. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about this book. I really liked it, but it's really light on content. So this could end up being a fantastic series, but they don't give you a lot to judge it by. There is nothing bad in this book. It's good art, interesting story, setting up the premise, but there's so little to go by that we're so focused on these guys hitting the beach and the leader and his self-doubt that not a lot happens. So again, this could end up being a fantastic series, and this will just seem like part of the great chapter. But let's see something happen in number 2, because if something doesn't happen in number 2, then I don't know if I'm going to stick around to find out.
Ironically, there are only 2 issues solicited.
Mm-hmm.
Issue 2 is in July, which is that slow release schedule that's going to eventually doom this book to the ADHD annals of my brain.
Yeah, you do have to remember, though, when you're dealing with licensed properties, that there's extra things in that, too, in getting things approved.
Get it done, get it approved before you release issue 1. That's what every other company does, and it works. Don't make me wait 2 months and forget that I like this book when Dan sends me number 2 and I go, why the hell are we reading Kong again? Didn't we just do that like a year and a half ago? Just saying.
So Kyle, how about you? Do you have a review for this?
Oh, give me King Kong over Godzilla every day of the week and I will read it. This is my jam. I don't like Star Trek. I don't like Godzilla. I don't like much, but give me an ape man that's going to climb the Empire State Building and swing a blonde lady from his fist, and I'm in. Like, just is what it is. And so this book to me was a lot of fun. It had all of the things I wanted. And again, while it is set in a certain time period, it didn't feel constrained by that time period, which means that I can read it and just dig it without having to be like, that's historically inaccurate. Why are you doing that? Don't do that, Dynamite. You should be better than this. Who's your editor? Has your editor ever taken a history class? Why is your editor never taking a history? I can just enjoy it.
So Ed's got a good question, because I'm stalling because somehow I skipped over this book in the list.
But Jay read, so Dan, just so you know, Jay read Godzilla and not Kong.
Yeah, I read Godzilla too.
Oh, I didn't read Godzilla because thank God we decided not to read Godzilla.
I read everything last night. So when you're like, hey, let's not read Godzilla, I'm like, fine.
Well, you could have said I already read it, and I'd been like, all right, I'll just read it too. Is this book in a world where they know Kong exists, or is it starting with them finding Kong on the island?
They don't establish either of that yet.
Which is where it falls into that Dan says nothing happens. Really, nothing happens. Like, oh, this is Skull Island. Got it. This is Kong Island. Got it. Where's Donkey Kong? Like, are there more than one Kongs? We don't know, because it doesn't do anything. Still fun, though. Mystere Annual, something, not Spawn, something.
I don't remember sending you that cover.
You didn't. I like this cover better.
It's a beautiful cover.
Right. Because whatever that thing is the whole reason I like this book. Like, Sure, there are pretty ladies in it. Great. Every Zenescope book has that. Not every Zenescope has like this demon dinosaur soul eater thing that is wildly interesting.
You know, I didn't love this book, and I didn't love it for one simple reason, is that they are so diving into Lovecraftian mythos in every aspect of what they're doing now, that it's kind of the either you're in or you're not. You know, there isn't like, well, in this series we're dealing with that, and over here we're dealing with this, and they're going all in, and it seems to coincide with them hiring David Wohl as the new editor-in-chief. Now, I don't know if that was his idea or what, but it just doesn't feel much like Zenescope books anymore. You know, the fantasy element has gone, the fairy tale stuff is gone, and they're now so deep into Lovecraftian horror and eldritch horror that either if that's your gig, great. If not, And I'm just not feeling it. You know, and I don't think Jay is either, because, you know, Fishman.
Triple B, I don't even think Callers would have made this book any better. Look, the story was okay. All right, the art was pretty good. But my usual problems, you know, the Lovecraft stuff, the fact that, you know, I'm a person that I love reading everything all at once, and you would think, man, a 60-something page book would be right up my alley. Not when this book could have been 20 pages. Like I said, it's just the story was there for me, but I don't know. It's just the Lovecraft stuff. I just can't. I just can't get into it.
I'll agree with Jay on this. 64 pages of content is perhaps 54 pages too many for this book. This could have been a 10-page story, and they did everything. They'd have done everything they needed to do. That said, in a universe that has been so off base and so out of left field and kind of seemingly misguided for so long in the Zenescope world, at least this story had a beginning, middle, and an end. They don't often have that anymore. It's like these series, like these one shots are trying to build a series, but you don't know what's going to be in that series because everything's number one, because number ones sell better than number twos. So we're just going to call everything a number one, even though it's not. That's the problem Zenescope has fallen into. And so what this book offers, to me at least, is a complete story that is not some of the other sort of tried, tired Zenescope nonsense. And at the end of the day, if this would have been one in a maybe 3-part anthology where each part was 10 pages, I would have been okay with it. But in the end, the only redeeming factor is that, oh, hey, this thing looks interesting. So, all right. Murder, Inc., Jagger Ross, number 1.
I wanted to love this book because it's the Powers team. It's Brian Michael Bendis. It's Michael Avon-Oeming. It's Taki Soma, someone who I share a birthday with. I just kept losing more and more interest as I read. I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do, and just found myself not caring to find out. But again, this was one I'm like, oh, hey, we got a new number 1. Bendis, Oeming, this is going to be great. I liked seeing a bishop kicking ass, but other than that, I'm not sure what they're doing here.
See, and I think, John, that's a misrepresentation of what that cover is. Thinking that cover is terrible, this is exactly what the covers of Powers look like. This is exactly dog whistling to the people who read Powers.
Yeah.
Because this is what they look like. It doesn't have a lady with her boobs hanging out. All right. Powers never did. Right? Hey, do you guys remember when Brian Bendis was good? Remember how those books look? This book looks like that. Of course, Brian Bendis isn't really good anymore. We're going to hope you don't notice that Powers, which was so great, which was it was so good, spectacularly good, has been used up and used and missed its point and lost what made it magical. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I would have taken this book off the rack, even though I love Powers, because I know that it's not going to live up. And that sucks. Michael Avon Oeming did a great job. The art was killer. You know, the lettering was legible, which isn't something we could say for every book we had this week. But the story was weak. And if you're gonna bring back something that's been gone for 15 years or however long it's been since Powers came out, you have to be better than this.
So I don't know what happened with this PDF, because when I opened this thing up and started reading it, I was like, wait a second. Why does it feel like this panel should be over here? This panel should be over here. Like, it felt to me like a lot of the panels were out of place.
They might have been 2-page spreads.
Okay. Well, however they did them in the PDF format didn't work for me, and I lost interest pretty quick. I was telling Dan that this book feels like a book people will like just to be different. Like those people, they're like, oh, nobody likes this. Oh, then I love it. It feels like that kind of book. It feels like it's just this trying to be edgy. Let's be as crazy as we can. Now, don't get me wrong. I think some of the characters look cool, but it's almost like they were trying to beat the Scarface record for F-bombs, like every other word. And I got a dirty mouth, man, but still, like that just kind of shows me that you don't have any good dialogue to give these people if that's all they say, you know? So I wasn't very fond of it. I'll put it that way. I didn't hate it, but wasn't very fond of it.
Yeah. So, Dan.
Yes.
Today you talked about the Hulk.
I did.
What are you talking about tomorrow?
I think we'll spend the whole show talking about how Robert De Niro at 79 just welcomed his 7th child.
Wow.
Biology, man. Biology. Although I will say this, you know that the last grandson of the 10th president of the United States just died in 2020, right? Like.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to talk about the new Star Wars Visions Season 2 that popped up. I'm halfway through. And so far, of the 4 that I've watched, I thought 3 of them were good. 1 of them extremely good.
All right.
So we'll have to see what the last 4 got.
And then what are we doing on Thursday?
We're going to pick up on our Jack of Hearts pitch. We've got a good start on that. So we're working on the 1 sheet and coming up with a plot synopsis, and we're just going to keep going with that. People seem to enjoy participating in that.
So good. It's so good.
All right, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the space cadets up to this week?
So this week it's going to be a Alfie and Bean episode. Jenna took the night off, so there's no pick of the week, but they spend the majority of the episode talking about Blue Book. They really, really like Blue Book. So they talk about Blue Book and other conspiracies. So it was interesting episode.
Do they cover the fact that birds aren't real?
They might have. They talked about some stuff in there, man.
Bean and I have had conversations about how birds aren't real on other shows before. All right, and then what's coming out from the Triangle of Truth?
Man, so hopefully this Friday, I'm gonna have my first free comic book day haul, including, if you can see it over here, that Superman logo I had drawn for me. I love that thing so much. Uh, it was really cool because the artist that was there, he was drawing Donatello. I got character sheets he gave us. Um, but I was like, hey man, can I get just a Superman shield? And he looked at me. He was like, "You don't want a character?" I said, "Nah." I said, "You probably get asked to draw characters all the time. I just want to show." He goes, "You're right. Nobody ever asked me just to draw the logos." And I told him, I said, "Every time I see you from now on, I'm going to get a different logo." And then I'm going to have a whole bunch of unboxing videos coming out too. So
Cool. So last night on The Devil's Advocates, we went for 2 hours on to slab or not to slab. And in that conversation, another thing came up: print versus digital. So Monday's episode will be a conversation of print versus digital. Which camp do you fall into? I'm going to call it epic rap battles of printing. Who won? You decide. And I would say that my views on digital comics have changed greatly in the last 2 weeks, as opposed to what I believed before. So it'll be an interesting conversation to have with myself and Bronze Age Nerd on the show.
And remember, it's a call-in show, y'all. We had Edward on last night.
Yeah, Ed called in, and another Kyle. There was another Kyle.
Yeah, another Kyle. Yeah.
The fact that there's more than one Kyle on this channel should be terrifying to everyone.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So, that was fun. But we will be back next week with print versus digital, and we are launching tomorrow. We'll both be making posts on social media, a portal where anyone can come in and suggest topics for the show. So that will be available starting tomorrow.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. That show's doing so good. I love it.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. Even though I was so hungry last night after we got done with the show that I immediately went home to eat, and then I was so exhausted when the adrenaline wore off that I forgot to eat. So my blood sugar got low like 6 times last night. It was great.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which might be why I hated everything today. I've hated everything today.
No, Carl, you hate everything every day.
No, I mean, like, even my lunch, like, I hated it. I ate it, but I hated it. Like, I've literally hated everything since the moment I woke up. Taking a shower, hated it. Breathing air, hated it.
God. Jeez.
All right.
Today's oxygen. I give it a 2. Not that great.
Yeah, today's oxygen, subpar. All right, the Great British Bump Off.
Kyle should go first on this one.
Bake along book, or we riot. I want this to come with a recipe book so bad. I am thoroughly enjoying this book. Mainly because, like with Scar, I can hear it in the voices of the people on the Great British Baking Show. So like the guy, the one guy with the eye patch sounds like Paul Hollywood to me. And the little lady sounds like Prue Leith. Which I really enjoy. As murder mysteries go, it's pretty meh, I think. But if you're a fan of lighthearted British competition shows where everyone's kind of rooting for everyone else, and even though they're seriously competing, this is for you. Like, it really is. I don't know if you're familiar with the Great British Baking Show, but like when someone has a meltdown, like all the other people try to help them instead of being like, ha, I'm going to beat them. Which is why the show doesn't work in America, by the way. This show, this book is not that, is more the British mentality. And that makes it interesting. It makes it different than a lot of the stuff we normally get. So very big fan, super interesting. Excited to see where it goes.
Jay?
This was a tough one for me, honestly. I liked the first issue. I was kind of hoping this book was going to be every issue another character gets offed. But Instead, it looks like it's only going to be about the character of Neil's death. I don't know. They're just, for me, it didn't feel like there was anything new added to this other than Shauna running around maniacally, and then other people thinking maybe she did this. I I don't know. I hope we get more in the next issue because I want to like this series. I really do, but this one just didn't do it for me.
Ed, yes, this was a series where the last comic had cake killing people.
I'm out. This series as a murder mystery is not a murder mystery. And as a comedy, it's not funny. It's a parody of a show that, unless you are a dedicated watcher, because I've watched quite a few of the Great British Bake Off, and I see that, but it's not even for someone who's a casual viewer. You need to be an addicted viewer to get the humor, because it's just not there. The moments aren't funny.
Yeah, I would say this. The level of fan you have to be of Dune to give a crap about the Dune comics is the level of fan of the Great British Baking Show you have to be to give a crap about the Great British Bump Off.
I'm going to disagree with you because Sean is a fan of the Dune books, and he's never read anything or watched anything Dune before this.
I don't trust Sean's judgment.
Oh, on tape.
We don't trust yours.
I'm well aware.
I don't trust mine.
Well, that's fair. No, you have to have enough back knowledge of Great British Baking Show to make this book funny. You have to have enough back knowledge of the concept and the production, all of the things in the show that people who are like getting alerts from the Reddit get in order for this to make sense.
Yeah, but they're doing it as a murder mystery.
Right.
And they give you nothing murder mystery-wise.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say. The solicitation for every issue except the first one either says Agatha Christie type story or Hercule Poirot type story.
Oh, there is a Poirot reference in here.
Right. But if you have to keep reminding people that that's what you're doing, you're probably not doing a good job of it.
Yes.
That is the problem. And that I will totally say the fact that I like it probably means that no one else will. Because I don't like Agatha Christie or Poirot stories really.
And
it's not my jam. Whereas Jam is my jam.
Calling this an Agatha Christie series style murder mystery is the equivalent of calling I don't think I even have a good metaphor.
Right. No, there isn't one.
Like
I said,
I'm a bicycle a Hemi.
Right. Right. It's like that clip from the British Morning Show where they go, if you add a ham, it would be like a English carbonara. And he goes, and if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. Like,
it's the equivalent on the back of the cereal box where they show you the bowl of cereal with toast and milk and juice, saying it's a balanced breakfast. Yeah, with everything else, this is just the bowl of cereal.
Right. I like I said, I want this because I want there to be
grape nuts at that.
Right. I want there to be a cookbook that comes with this. This is not a murder mystery. It's nothing. It's a show for people who like the Great British Bake Off and are occasionally into true crime.
I would be interested if there was a bit recipes in it, though. I will tell you that.
Right. I think they're missing a trick. Ghost lore.
What the hell was this?
Oh my goodness.
Somewhere in Colin Bunn's house is a file folder with incriminating photos of every publisher in this country. Because that's the only way he's got so many books out there. And while there's some that are absolutely wonderful, there's others that I just read and go, why are we what is this? Is this a one-shot? Is it what story are we telling? And why?
It's at least 3 issues, which is 4.5 too many.
Hey, Kenneth.
I will say this. When Cullen pitched this book and gave me the elevator pitch on this book, I went, that sounds like it has Preacher vibes. And he goes, yeah, you could say that. No, you can't. They should plant a tree for every issue of this comic that they made to offset the wastefulness. If you're into I'm sorry, Triple B just made me completely lose my train of thought, and I love it.
Thanks, boss. I appreciate that.
If you're into stories that make no sense with creatures that make no sense and ghosts that make no sense and, just random chanting, this book is for you. Also, if you're into those things, seek help.
But hey, make the guy look like David Tennant on the cover. It might help sales.
I didn't read that. I read that as it looks like what they wanted the guy in Preacher to look like and couldn't do it.
And an artist from Mad Magazine drew him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pick a lane, man. Pick a lane. Is it a monster book, a ghost book, People Are the Real Monsters book, a Ghost Whisperer book? I wanted to like this, but I don't know the story that he's trying to like. What is the purpose of this?
Yeah,
it's too much. Pick one thing. We don't have to. Hey, just throw everything in there and see if somebody likes something. I'm lost on this. I'm lost.
This did not go boom.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Did we read the Nasty #1?
I don't remember it. I vaguely remember it, actually.
Okay, I don't even vaguely remember it. So this book was dumb because I didn't know what was happening. Might have been a good book, but I didn't know it was happening. Unique concept, but I didn't know it was happening. Never yell fire in a crowded theater, but I didn't know what was happening. So
let's let Jay review this one, because Jay not only read the Nasty 2, he went back and reread the Nasty 1. And the fact that he had the Nasty 1 meant that we did read it. So Jay, take it away. Tell everybody how good or bad this book is.
I read it off another site because I don't think I was here for when y'all read the first one.
No, that just means we didn't read it.
Okay. Went back and read the first one because I was so excited when John Lees announced this. This actually got postponed. It was supposed to come out earlier and something happened. I don't know exactly what. But this did not disappoint me. I love this. And how this issue ends just opens up a ton of possibility. And I don't want to say it because how it ends it's cool. I love it. I love how it ends because I freaked out for a second until what happens. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're going to be able to do something amazing with this. If there's anybody out there that, hasn't read this, is thinking about checking it out, check this out. But also, like I said, John Lees, I've been a fan of his for a long time. He's written my favorite top 3 comics of all time called The Standard. He's got a book called Hotel or Hell. I never know how to say it. It's from AWA Upshot, though. And he's also written a TMNT Universe #6 is what he the list is expanded, but I love his writing and I'm ready for more. Bring on the nasty. I loved it.
I think we're just going to let it go with that one.
Jay, can you send us #1?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to know what was happening. Because I too like John Lees, but I didn't know what was happening. Speaking of not knowing what's happening, Don't Spit into the Wind #2.
Trencher Light.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Go ahead, Jay.
Interesting. I needed to go read the first one because I didn't read the first one. I think this is actually the book I was thinking of when I was like, people are going to like this just to be like, hey, look how quirky I am. I like weird books because I don't know what. This is just like the freaking Ghost Lord book. I don't know what's going on. What is this? What is this? What is this about recycling? I don't know what this is.
So if you remember in the first issue, it's a love story between two people who work for this company whose job is scrubbing the planet after essentially the apocalypse makes our planet uninhabitable. And one of them or one of their coworkers goes missing or doesn't respond. So one of them goes on a rescue mission, and this book picks up there. I think that this book is trying to do too much in that it's trying to tell like stories about environmental consciousness and, what's the room for? Corporate greed and, being responsible humans, and is doing none of them particularly with aplomb. It's just kind of throwing it all out the wall and see what happens. Oh, and then you have this art from Dan Lee that does just look like a Keith Giffen ripoff. Backwoods, this is a lady on the cover wearing a helmet because if you don't, the world will eat you alive. Essentially, the air will eat your bones. So, looks like a real repurposed tank girl. Yeah, that also appropriate kind of comparison. Yeah, issue 1 was interesting. Issue 1 had some stuff going for it that issue 2 didn't. I think I will probably still read an issue 3 just to see if it figures out where the rails are. But if it doesn't, I would be done. I will say this. I sent you guys this, and I meant to send you Monomyth #1.
Oh.
So because Kyle misread the internet, we had this and not another #1.
Oh.
Because the internet said Monomyth was out next week. The website I went to, and then Preview said it was out this week. So I went to Mad Cave's site, and they're like, yeah, it's out this week. I'm like, crap, I messed up. So maybe we'll throw Monomyth in for next week.
Oh, yeah.
And see if maybe Mad Cave can't redeem itself from this. Also, I didn't send you a Legacy of Violence #5 because, let's be real, we had all kind of lost the plot on that one. So,
including Colin.
That one's not Cullen, is it?
Yep.
Yep, it was. Okay. So.
We live in a different world now. Because about a minute ago, I understood the world. I understood everything in its place. And I could kind of roughly predict when things were going to happen. And then Kyle says the words, with a plum.
Think I don't know English, Dan?
I don't know the world anymore. I don't. I don't know what's going to happen anymore. I feel like he who remains at the end of Loki. The moment.
You mean soon to be unemployed?
Guilty until proven innocent.
Oh, man.
That's a fair thing. Okay, soon to be less employed. Yeah, no, I know with aplomb. What am I? He met with a plum. He's jonesing for blood. No, I'm good. My blood sugar is actually high. But needless
with
to say.
A plum. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no.
No, you used it completely correct.
I know I did.
It's just not a term used often in general conversations anymore.
Yeah.
That's why Kyle used it. He's bringing it back.
Reclaiming it, man.
But it didn't even feel like that. It felt like just it was the next choice of words.
Very organic.
Yeah. Mhm.
And if you look at his background, it has that purplish, plumish background going. Perhaps he's trying to be Professor Plum.
No. If anything, I'm trying to be the little girl from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory who turns into a blueberry.
Violet.
Yes. So, all right, guys, this has been in stores this week. We got through all the books.
No, one more. Godzilla versus.
Oh, yes, Godzilla versus you guys.
They forgot it's a kaiju book. I don't know what they're doing.
There you go. I got a little something here.
All right.
Haven't liked any of these, and this is no exception. Didn't like the art or the story or the what felt like to me the ripoff character who looked like a certain DC villainess. Just call the book Monster Rivals. Not for me.
By the way, Ed says, did you do it with the candlestick in the conservatory? Is that an innuendo? Because that seems like an innuendo to me.
If it's Ed, it probably is.
I will say this, Ed. No, but I've only ever been Colonel Mustard. Okay. I will say this, that is I'm glad we got Godzilla Rivals because we weren't sure that IDW was ever going to put out comics again. So yay, but boo. Kind of. So this has been in stores this week, where we talk about comic books that are in stores this week. It's really important to us here at The Experience, guys, that you head over and visit your local comic shop. Local comic shops are the backbone of the comic book industry, and none of us would be here without them. So in order to find a comic shop nearby to you, head over to comicshoplocator.com. Type in the zip code of where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic book shops nearby to you. A friend of mine just moved to Tulsa, and they were like, where are there good comic book stores? I'm like, I don't know, but you know who does? comicshoplocator.com. And they were like, really? You can't give us a recommendation? I'm like, I just didn't I? They're like, you're a jerk. Why are we friends? And I go, I have no idea. We've just known each other so long. We're not allowed to not be friends.
Teach a man to fish. Okay.
Right.
Kyle lives in a world that seems like an ad.
Mm-hmm. If you teach a man to advertise, he'll advertise. If you teach a man to read ads, he'll advertise. Advertising. Someone spend money and advertise with The Experience.
And by the way, I would be here if there weren't for comic shops, because I'd probably have a crocheting show, and Ed would be my one guest, or my one
That's fair.
viewer. So.
None of us would be here without local comic shops because, well, then comic books wouldn't exist. So head over to comicshoplocator.com and check that out. Stay tuned. We're done a few minutes early. Take about a 5-minute break, hit the refresh button on your page, and tune in for a minute to skim it. Coming up immediately after this, and then Mint Hunter after that. I want to take a moment and remind you all that Nick on Friday is going to cause me to sell a kidney. Not because I think my kidney will work, but because the black market can command a high amount of money for that. As Nick is selling pages from Amazing Spider-Man number 7, the first appearance.
Spider-Man number 7.
Or Spider-Man number 7, first appearance of Spider-Boy. Page 18 is going to cost so much that I'm considering selling my organs and still buying it with a partner. I wonder if anyone would be interested in joint custody.
You do realize that you've already sold your hair for that last issue.
No, I sold my hair a long time ago. This is not the gift of the Magi, Dan. My hair quit. Said, you know what? We've had enough of this. So tune in Friday night at 7 here in The Experience for the original art experience, where Nick will be selling art that will cost more than my car, and I'm okay with that. So we will see you all then. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Jay and Dan, and we will see everybody next time.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.